Thank you for coming. Welcome. My name is Sarah Ripp. I'm the Outreach Coordinator and Undergrad Advisor for the Latin American, Caribbean, and Iberian Studies program here at UW. And we're very pleased to have you all here today. It looks like almost all new faces I've never seen before, which is always really fantastic. So thanks so much for coming. I did leave a couple of things over in the corner. We have a weekly lecture series every Tuesday at noon that may be of interest to some of you guys who are new to our program. It's a different, topic, kind of regional focus every week. We also offer an undergrad and master's program, a PhD minor. We offer funding to community organizations like a grant program, which is how we have Tomas here today. We also, it's my third brochure. Oh, the other one is about our outreach activities. So kind of all the different types of events and things like that I work on. So you're welcome to take brochures if you're interested. And then lastly, the clipboard has our listserv list if you're interested in signing up for emails. We send out...
Excuse me, it's really hard to listen to two speakers at once. Would you mind telling later?
I'm interpreting into Spanish for Tomas, who will be our speaker in Spanish.
No, it's okay. We send out an email blast once a week that basically is sort of a one-stop shopping type thing. All the events that we're planning and then things happening all around Madison or on campus that have any relationship to Latin America, the Caribbean, or Iberian Peninsula are all packed into one email. So it's kind of a nice thing to get once a week. We try not to send too many emails. So that's the clipboard, and I will turn it over to Elise. So thanks again for coming.
Hi, my name is Elise Roberts. I'm the regional organizer for Witness for Peace. Thanks so much for being here today, and thanks for having us. An introduction, Sarah. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Witness for Peace, our mission, history, what we're doing now. Then I'm going to hand it off to Rael to tell us a little bit about the situation in Honduras. And then we'll hear mostly directly from our guest, Tomas Gomez-Membreño from Honduras. That'll be about 45 minutes of presentation. Then we'll have time for questions, and we'll end with some ideas about how to stay involved, how to learn more about these themes, and where we can go from here. Witness for Peace is a politically independent, nationwide grassroots organization of people committed to nonviolence and led by faith and conscience. Our mission is to support peace, justice, and sustainable economies in the Americas by changing U.S. policies and corporate practices which contribute to poverty and oppression in the Americas. It seems pretty broad. It's actually pretty specific. It's things that happen in our government, U.S. foreign policy, and U.S. corporate practices that affect folks in Latin America. We were formed during the Contra War, wanting U.S. citizens to see the effects of military aid in Nicaragua and the violence there. We started with our roots in human rights accompaniment work and realizing that when U.S. citizens were on the ground in places where violence was linked to U.S. military aid, there was less violence. We still continue to do human rights accompaniment work, mostly in Colombia and Honduras now. But our mission has expanded to include all kinds of ways that U.S. foreign policy and corporate practices influence the human rights situation in Latin America. So as you can imagine, that now we focus more on trade, especially free trade agreements and the effects of trade. Corporate practices that are tied to trade, or our U.S. corporations and how they behave in Latin America. We also deal with issues of the drug war and other forms of military aid to Latin America. Immigration policies that affect people's movement throughout Latin America, but also their well-being once Latin American immigrants come to the United States. And we work on the Cuba embargo. So all kinds of ways in which things that happen in our government and our corporations affects people throughout Latin America. Currently we have teams in Colombia, Nicaragua, Honduras, Mexico, and Cuba. And those teams are in charge of documenting on the ground what's the effects of U.S. policies. They come to accompany when we bring in speakers from our partners in Latin America, and they host delegations when we bring groups of U.S. citizens down to see firsthand the effects of U.S. policy. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those ideas and how we can stay involved after the presentation. For now, I'm just going to hand around a sign-in sheet so you can stay if you're not already signed into our lists. And I will hand it off to Rael. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Rael O'Malley. I work for Witness for Peace in our Managua office. So that is part of our team that works both in Nicaragua and Honduras. Honduras had a coup d'etat in 2009. Since then, the human rights violations have mushroomed. The United States has played a very important role, both as far as the aid that it has given to the police and military of Honduras, as well as re-accepting Honduras to the kind of international political landscape. And Witness for Peace has brought 3 delegations since the coup d'etat, and we have another that we are looking to bring in November of this year. In addition, we've been providing human rights accompaniment to international accompaniment to human rights defenders and reporting on the context and situation there. Through this work, we developed a relationship with an organization called COPIN, which is the Civic Council of Popular and Indigenous Organizations of Honduras. This is an organization of which Tomas is a part, and it has been our great honor as Witness for Peace to work with an organization like COPIN that struggles in defense of the rights of indigenous peoples in a context of extreme violence and a context that Tomas will speak about further. Yeah, I mean, just to pass the word on to Tomas, I would just like to thank Tomas for participating in this 24-day tour that we have been doing around the upper Midwest. And yeah, spreading the word about what is happening in Honduras and how it links to U.S. foreign policy, as well as what people who are living in the U.S. can do practically to put themselves in solidarities with movements such as COPIN. It has also been my honor to play the role of interpreter for Tomas's presentations. So from here on out, that will be my role. And at the end of the presentation, if you do have questions for me or Elise and the work that Witness for Peace does, please feel free to ask those questions. But a round of applause for Tomas for being with us here today.
Muy buenas tardes a todas y a todos.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Mi nombre es Tomás Gómez Membreño. Soy de la organización indígena Lenca de Honduras, que se llama COPIN.
My name is Tomás Gómez Membreño, and I'm from an indigenous Lencan organization from Honduras called COPIN.
Y quiero agradecer también a la organización Acción Permanente por la Paz por tener esta solidaridad con nosotros para que nosotros compartamos esta situación que estamos viviendo como pueblo hondureño.
And I would like to thank the organization Witness for Peace for having solidarity with us so that I can have the opportunity to share the situation that we are living as a Honduran people.
COPIN es una organización de base, es una organización antipatriarcal, antineoliberal, anticapitalista, que también tiene luchas muy fuertes en diferentes comunidades del pueblo lenca.
COPIN is a grassroots organization that is anti-patriarchy, anti-neoliberalism, and anti-capitalism, and we have strong struggles that we have taken up within Lencan communities.
También tenemos campañas, ¿verdad?, en defensa de nuestro territorio. y defensa de lo que es de nuestra vida, también la defensa de nuestra interculturalidad bilingüe y también el desarrollo humano como seres humanos, como indígenas que nos merecemos, ¿verdad?
And we take up various campaigns in defense of our territory, in defense of our lives, in defense of our bilingual interculturality, and the rights that we have as human beings and as Indigenous people.
El proyecto de sistema neoliberal para nuestros pueblos indígenas ha sido una situación muy difícil que nosotros estamos viviendo por estos proyectos de extractivismo que están impulsando los organismos internacionales, ¿verdad? Que son de cooperación, como por ejemplo el Banco Mundial, como por ejemplo el BID, ¿verdad? Y otros organismos internacionales de financieros que tienen puesto los ojos y han hecho políticas dirigidas al acaparamiento de los bienes naturales, más que todo de nuestra población indígena.
And these projects of the neoliberal system have been very difficult for Indigenous people. These are situations that have been extremely difficult for us in this context to continue to live due to these projects of extraction that have had cooperation on behalf of international organizations. For example, the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank, among other multilateral financial institutions. And these are the policies that have supported taking our natural resources, above all the natural resources of Indigenous people.
Y eso más que todo se enmarca en represión para nuestro pueblo y también el acaparamiento sobre lo que es la tenencia de nuestra tierra, ¿verdad? Que se acaparan todos los bienes naturales y nuestra tierra. Y en esto se enmarcan los proyectos como represas hidroeléctricas, ¿verdad? Que quieren construir a la fuerza en las comunidades indígenas, sin consultar, tampoco sin consultarle a la persona de su propiedad, ¿verdad? Que tiene título comunitario, título individual, ¿verdad? Y no pensando que el desplazamiento, por ejemplo, que genera una represa hidroeléctrica de la población, ¿verdad? Indígena, y tampoco ni le pagan el precio que tiene su tierra, ni saben dónde lo van a reubicar, y si no, lo que tienen que hacer después de construir la represa hidroeléctrica es viajar hacia el norte, aquí a Estados Unidos, arriesgando su vida, ¿verdad? Entonces, eso es lo que es el proyecto de represas hidroeléctricas.
So the context of the repression of our people has had to do with taking our ability to use our land and our natural resources. And this has happened through projects such as hydroelectric dams that have impacted us very strongly, in indigenous communities. And they have come without consulting the indigenous communities, regardless of if someone has an individual title or a community title to the land. This has displaced people from their communities because of these hydroelectric projects. And they take the land of indigenous people without paying for that land. And when people are misplaced because of these hydroelectric projects, they are forced to leave for the north, to travel to the United States and risk their life, all because of these projects.
Esto tiene relación con lo que es el apoyo económico que le da Estados Unidos a lo que es el ejército hondureño, a la policía. También tiene que ver con la instalación de bases militares de Estados Unidos en Honduras y en Latinoamérica. y también tiene que ver, está entrelazado con las empresas transnacionales, estas de corporación, de acaparamiento, de extractivismo, en lo que es en la región. Y también está entrelazado con lo que es las políticas, ¿verdad?, que tienen hacia nuestros pueblos. Y entonces para eso han desplegado lo que es una gran violencia para nuestra población, ¿verdad?, intimidación, cuando una comunidad o un municipio o un departamento está en contra de la construcción de represas hidroeléctricas o concesiones mineras, ¿verdad?, que saben las comunidades el impacto que va a tener estas concesiones mineras en la población, ¿verdad?, y que también la violencia que ha estado generando todas estas políticas, más asesinatos de compañeros y compañeras, luchadores y luchadoras, ¿verdad?, que están defendiendo lo que es la vida y la tenencia de la tierra.
So the relation that this has with So there is a relationship that this has with the economic aid that is given by the United States to the Honduran military and police, as well as the intervention that happens through U.S. military bases that are set up both in Honduras and Latin America. This also has a strong relationship with multinational corporations, such as those that seek to extract and monopolize our natural resources. These are the policies that are directed towards our people, and it has meant violence for our people. It has meant intimidation in our municipalities and our communities. For anyone who is against these mining projects, these hydroelectric projects, who know what the impact will be in their communities. So that is why we have seen assassinations and detentions performed against all of those who struggle in defense of their lives and indigenous territory.
Y esto también tiene que ver con el enclave bananero, ¿verdad?, en nuestro país, y lo que tiene que ver también con los siembros que tiene que ver con la palma africana que está sembrando un empresario, ¿verdad?, y que tiene una gran cantidad, cientos y cientos de hectáreas en la región del norte, por ejemplo, desde el Progreso hasta llegar a la Mosquitia hondureña. Son cientos de territorios que les ha quitado a los campesinos y a las campesinas. También lo que tiene que ver con la bananera, ¿verdad?, que eso es un proyecto que está puesto a acapararse todo lo que es el territorio, y que han incrementado, por ejemplo, o tiene la ideología de la policía, por ejemplo, de decir que de criminalizar, por ejemplo, la movilización, de criminalizar a las organizaciones, ¿verdad?, que por ejemplo si nosotros luchamos en la defensa de lo que es el territorio y los derechos de nuestro pueblo hondureño, ya dicen que nosotros estamos en contra del desarrollo. Pero ¿qué tipo de desarrollo es esto?, ¿verdad? Más bien asesinando a los compañeros y compañeras campesinos, asesinando a nuestros compañeros indígenas. Eso no es un desarrollo en nuestro país.
So this also has to do with the banana companies and the banana industry, as well as the African palm plantations that have been undertaken by a large corporate entity. This has taken acres and acres in the northern part of Honduras, from Progreso up until the Mosquitia. We're talking about hundreds of acres of land that has been taken, stolen from campesinos, small farmers, as well as by these banana companies, which are taking the territory. And the ideologies that have guided the police are to criminalize protests, to criminalize our organizations, those of us who defend the rights of, who defend their own human rights. they say that we're against development, but what type of development is this when they are killing our people, killing entire communities? This isn't development in our country.
Y entonces, con todo esto que he venido haciendo un poco de la reseña histórica de lo que es nuestro país y las diferentes problemáticas que hay, ¿verdad? Hemos visto nosotros que, por ejemplo, el apoyo que le dan económico de Estados Unidos directo a la policía, tanto en armas, tanto en preparación de gentes policíacas y del ejército, y económicamente, y que es del pueblo estadounidense, esté destinado para asesinar a compañeros y compañeras, ¿verdad? Entre comillas, dicen ellos que es para combatir la inseguridad y el narcotráfico en nuestro país, ¿verdad? Pero no es así, porque nosotros podemos decir que más bien está destinado para terminar a nuestro pueblo, ¿verdad? Para terminar a los que luchamos en la defensa de lo que es del territorio, y que preparan, por ejemplo, quiero mencionarles un caso que es lamentable lo que ha pasado, ¿verdad? Con lo que es con las bases militares de Estados Unidos en Honduras.
And all of this history that I am mentioning in our country and the various struggles that we have seen, this is all has a direct relationship with the money that is given from the United States to the police, both in arms as well as preparation and training towards police forces and the army. And this economic aid has been destined to kill our peers, our compañeros, and it is to, quote, combat insecurity and narco-trafficking. But this has not been the case. It has rather been destined to finish off our people, finish all of those who struggle to defend our territory. And I want to speak of an unfortunate case that happened in relation to a U.S. military base in Honduras.
Lo que les iba a contar sobre las bases militares en Honduras, en el 10 de mayo de este año, asesinaron a 4 compañeros y compañeras misquitos, ¿verdad? En la región de la Mosquitia, donde se han puesto nuevas bases militares de Estados Unidos, ¿verdad? Que tenemos nosotros comprobado que eran asesores ahí que andaban de esa base militar de esa región, y que asesinaron a 4 compañeros, entre ellos 2 compañeras mujeres que estaban embarazadas, ¿verdad? Las asesinaron y nada, pero ni la investigación. Sabemos que está la justicia en nuestro país, está al servicio de estas grandes corporaciones o del sistema que ha generado un estado de terror o un clima de terror en nuestro país. Sí, nosotros luchamos en la defensa de ese territorio. También quiero poner otro caso que es muy importante mencionar, ¿verdad? Estos casos para que puntualicemos y que ustedes se den cuenta también qué es lo que pasa.
So this case that I would like to mention that has a relationship with the U.S. military base happened on the 10th of May, where compañeros, peers of ours, were killed in the Mosquitia. And this had a strong relation with new U.S. military bases that were put up in this area, and it is proved that this military base was directly involved in this killing of 4 peers. 2 of them were women and they were pregnant. They were killed and there was no investigation. This proves that the justice system in our country is in favor of the multinational corporation and in favor of this system that generates a climate of terror for those who struggle to protect their territory and their natural resources. So there's another case I would like to mention so that you all hear about what is happening in my country.
En la comunidad de San Bartolomé la comunidad está fuertemente en contra de la represa hidroeléctrica que están construyendo en una fuente de agua que tiene la comunidad, ¿verdad? Como forma de represión llegó la policía hondureña a la casa, ¿verdad?, de donde ellos vivían. Ahí lo fue a matar a uno de nuestros compañeros, ¿verdad?, por defender su territorio, ¿verdad? Y entonces le pegó tres disparos el policía. Fueron 2 policías los que fueron. Incluso no le correspondía en esa jurisdicción, ¿verdad?, de otro municipio se fue la policía y anda impunemente, ¿verdad? O sea que ni lo castigaron, ni lo sacaron de la policía, ni nada. Más bien, ese es un agente que es especialista, dicen ellos, ¿verdad? Y que van a defenderlo y que va a andar impunemente, ¿verdad? Y así a otros compañeros y compañeras de Copín, dirigentes, ¿verdad?, que los han amenazado, les han hecho disparos, por ejemplo, cuando van de una comunidad, ¿verdad? Y que compañeros en la radio que llaman y empiezan a estarles diciendo que a ustedes dejen de estar hablando porque ya los vamos a asesinar. A nuestra compañera Berta en varias veces le han llamado, ¿verdad?, decirle que cerca de su casa la están esperando para asesinarla, ¿verdad? O sea que estamos viviendo en un clima de terror con lo que es con la seguridad como pueblos indígenas.
So for example, in the community of San Bartolome, where everyone in the community is against this hydroelectric project that seeks to take the water source that there is within the community as a form of repression, police arrived at the house of one member who was struggling against this project and killed him for defending